Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get this meeting started. It is 2:33. This is a tax increment reinvestment zone number 1. We are meeting at City Hall, Council Chambers, 1110 Houston Street. Calling this meeting to order. Thanks, everybody, for making time to join us, the board, city staff, and our guests, our consultants. Moving on to roll call, but Tina or Camila,
Yes.
would you call roll?
Yes. Mr. Mia,
Present.
Mr. Castillo,
Present.
Mr. Navarro,
Present.
Mr. Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Ceballos,
Here.
and Miss Alexander.
And we do have a quorum, so we'll proceed with the meeting. The next item on the agenda are the minutes for approval of minutes for May 11th, 2022. The board,
moved.
there's been a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. Item 4, citizens' comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 2:45 and can be found here at the council chambers. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Has anybody signed in to speak?
No, at the moment we don't have any public
All
comment.
right, so we still have a few minutes, about 10 minutes left. All right, if they do, anybody signs up, just let me know and we'll make time for that. Presentations items, no action to be taken on this item. This is item 5. This is time for an update, update status presentation by Able City of TIRZ number 1 on project's progress, including wayfinding and monument updated concepts, civil surveying, public information website, and other work. So what I'd like to do here is take maybe 10, 15 minutes to take the highlights of this presentation and let the board give them an opportunity to ask any questions. I know that, and I'm gonna make some remarks related to this. I know that I've been stressing for us to get to construction soon, and I think it's my opinion that we're stagnating in design. I think we need to move forward and get us to construction. I know that the civil engineering team is busy working on, they're not done. But I see some things on this presentation that lead me to believe that we're rehashing concepts and bringing things back. So that's my opinion. I would like to see us move from this stage to construction. The item that follows, we'll talk about this idea of presenting it back to the public for comments. I'm not in disagreement with that. That was a request made. I agree with it. But I see us coming back with even new ideas when we move forward from some concepts. So those are just some general remarks. I'd like to get direction from this board as to how they want to move on the concepts today and not go back and come back with new ideas and new concepts. We've been, for the sake of public interest, we have the funding for these projects. And so the board is fully aware we cannot sit in design and concept. There'll be a discussion over public engagement. We're good to do that. The previous chair did a great job engaging the public. I think we can put that, we can feel comfortable that he did a very good job engaging the public. I attended those meetings, if several of you did. We may want to do some more of that, but I want to caution us to not stagnate and cause further delays in getting us into construction. And we were just talking earlier before the start of this meeting that prices are not coming down. It's only going to be more expensive. Concrete is just going to get pricier for us to build these sidewalks and these improvements. So those are my remarks with that item. I don't want to spend most of the meeting discussing this. I think the board needs to talk about other items, but I do want to preface by saying that Rick, and I know you and I have connected on this, but I want to make sure we move forward. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, members of the board, the chairman, Rick Solis with Able City. I do want to, before I get to the presentation, I do want to touch on a few things. As Mr. Ceballos mentioned, we have received the first round of surveying from our consultant. We're starting to implement that into our design system and working with them to come up with a concept so we can get into construction documents for Iturbide, Zaragoza, and San Agustin. With regards to the website, we've made contact with a vendor. He's worked on some other websites, and his price is actually very reasonable. So I just wanted to mention that we'll be bringing that to the board at the next meeting to get that going as well. So with regards to the presentation, and you guys should have a copy of that. So we have as part of the concept, we have the two monument signs that we've been discussing the whole time. One along Zaragoza by the Heritage Foundation, and then also the one along Iturbide Street. Now, as you can see, the monument will be on the southwest corner of the intersection of Santa Ursula and Iturbide Street, as shown on the attached image. We had previously presented 4 options, and I think the board did decide to focus on 2 options. Subsequent to that meeting, which I apologize, we're kind of working through that, the committee did sort of look at a couple of different options. So I think we're done with options. This is kind of what we're looking at right now. As you can see, option 1 was one of the options that they picked. We ended up, based on the comments from the committee, we raised the height of it a little bit and added some different terminology on the sign. And we can come back to these. I'm just going to want to show you them, and we can always come back to discuss as we get to those items on the agenda. So this option here, option 2, was sort of a conglomeration of the different options that we had previously seen that I think people liked. They said, we kind of like this, but we want to see something different. And so this opportunity was to develop a monument that really spoke more about Laredo. I think, and I'll show you, we had one with like a cowboy hat that we had shown you all before. This was also a sign that we had previously shown as well, the sort of the Vegas sign. And then the last option was the one that we had previously seen, again, the one with the cowboy hat and neon. Option 2 is really a conglomeration of option 4 and option 1. So with that said, we can decide to show all of these to the public, or we can pick and choose which ones you all want to get public input on. Now, we also have been meeting with our Convention and Visitors Bureau on the monument signs. I think at the last meeting it was discussed that they have some funding available for these monument signs that we want to tap into before we start using our money. And we've come to the agreement that there's about 6 locations where we can try to utilize what they have in mind as far as those wayfinding signs, the monument signs. The 6 sites are loaded below. There's one at City Hall, one at St. Peter's Plaza, one at El Metro, El Mercado Plaza, San Agustin Plaza, and El Portal. So those were the 6 sites that we met with the committee, and we decided these are like the great locations for these wayfinding monuments. So we have a couple of options to show you all as far as that's concerned. We kind of have like a base model option, which is very, very simple. And then we have an option that has a little bit more detail to it. We haven't priced anything, and I think that's also another item that we need to discuss on the agenda. But we just want to show you the options so that we can move forward from this point. So on this one, there are 2 variations of the same concept. We have a stone base with a Corten steel top, and then we have the logos with the wayfinding maps on them. We've tried to identify the 6 different options with like a symbol, a logo for each plaza was kind of the concept that we were using. So we have some ideas of where to locate them. Outside City Hall, we can put one by the bus stop or the corner pavilion area, the kiosk. In St. Peter's, we talked about putting one in the plaza itself. Same thing at El Metro, where we can kind of put it in a prominent location. El Mercado Plaza on the southeast corner of the plaza was another location that we felt as people are driving up and down San Agustin Avenue, they can get a good view of this. San Agustin Plaza on the southeast corner. And at Portal. This one was a little bit more tricky on where to locate it. We sort of picked a place near CVB itself. That's a place where there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially coming down Salinas. We felt like this was a good place for it. On the second option, again, these are a little bit more detailed. We're talking about doing some laser cutting and having them backlit. We opted to use a sandstone base on this option, which is more in line with Webb County and the city of Laredo. It's our natural stone. It's very similar to the stone that's out at Portal right now on that big flood retaining wall. In this option, essentially the sign remains the same. It's just the logos change as we've been noting. And again, same concepts. You know, where they're located. You got to kind of get a sense of what those might look like. So one other option that we wanted to consider, and we'll treat this as an alternate when we're ready to go out to bid these, is that, as you can tell on some of these, like this one in particular, it's under a tree, basically. So it's in a shady area, and there's lots of, you know, this is also kind of shady as well. But on the ones that are kind of freestanding out in the open, there might be an issue where there might be a little hard to read because of the bright sunlight that's there during the day. So we've talked about maybe doing an option with a little solar canopy on it. Again, it's just an add-on to what we've already designed. We can get a price for that, and then we can choose to entertain that or not. But we do want to show you an option with a canopy on it. The last thing that we have as far as wayfinding, and this is something that we're still working through with the committee on our directional street signs. These were the draft maps or the locations where we've discussed putting these signage, street signs, basically. As you can see that we have 15 sites located now. That's not the end, we're just putting these for reference. And this is the document that we kind of developed for that as well. Again, it's a draft. That still needs to be taken to the committee. So we have options for poles, and then we have options for the icon on top of the poles. You know, I'm sure this is it's probably the first time you guys have seen this. So, you know, I want to let you guys look at these and have a chance to comment. We do like the color coded on the street signs themselves, and we do think that the tops themselves should signify something more related to Laredo. You know, we have the monarch butterfly or the picture of the saint or the general that happens to be at that corner. We have the boot and the huarache again. We have the CVB logo, the new City of Laredo CVB logo, the flower. And then, of course, you know, something a little more in Texas with the star. We can choose to have poles. We can choose to have a pole with a monument sign attached. These are just concepts that we wanted to put out and get feedback on. The last item on our list is just something that we've been meaning to bring back because we feel like some of these can be, we can start working on some of these right now. It's just a conversation about the murals and where they should be located. We've identified, you know, about 8 different locations. I know some people feel strongly as to where these should be. I think there's some cooperation that can happen with both the city and the county on some of these locations. But we wanted to bring this back just to also kind of get everyone thinking if we can decide on, you know, through the committee or here, decide on which locations to target, then we can start working to that direction as well. Again, just different options.
Thanks, Rick. I think the designs are all great. I'm going to give you my input. I'm not an expert in that area, so I think everything looks great. I'd be happy with any one of those personally. I want to make sure the board knows what cord and steel looks like. Can
Yes.
you show them that on an image?
Yeah, so I don't have one here, but,
Do you have Google on that computer?
let's see here.
Does everybody know what it looks like, cord and steel? No, so I want to make sure they know what the look and feel is.
I can get to Chrome, I can show you all.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Tina, since we're moving forward with the Southern Hotel, maybe that could be a site in future we can put a mural.
We could, I mean, we did that, we incorporated that into the 820 Convent project, which was a very nice mural that ended up.
It's a great idea.
we could-
It has some lettering, right?
Yeah.
says Southern.
I
So you
believe
can
the
probably
lettering
restore
is
that.
gonna, so we are working with the State Historical Preservation Office for that renovation, but so that lettering is being planned to be
Restored.
restored, but we could definitely always use the bottom half for some mural.
Yeah,
Toss the
and-
screen.
And
Yeah, I have it
also remember, we are keeping a sign for the Evelyn Motel. It's a historical old sign. Maybe we can find a way to put that sign somewhere and just change, because we have the sign, so you just need to redo the,
Yeah, put it to use.
yeah. Maybe that will be good in part of the monument we're doing, use that sign and just change the name from Evelyn Motel to
Oh,
whatever we
yeah.
can, but use the same shape. It's
Figure out a way to use it for sure. I think we ought to put our heads together on it.
It could almost be like a sculpture or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I have on the screen, I don't know if we can get this shared. So this is what the core 10 looks like. You know, it's a little bit of it's kind of a natural steel color. And you can see the white letters, and so it'd be very similar to this in color and feel. This is a very large sign.
Is the
obviously.
lettering within it,
This lettering is actually on top.
on top?
Yeah, you can kind of see it. You see the shadow line there.
Can you show them the Casa Verde one?
Yeah, sure.
That one has, I think the lettering is within it. So it's a rustic acid wash feel, you know. I think it's fitting.
Rick, how soon can you get pricing on all these monuments?
Well, as soon as, I guess that is an item on the agenda. I believe we're gonna go through the purchasing department to get that done. If we can get some direction as to an option, then we can quickly, essentially, we're gonna put this out as a turnkey thing. The signage contractors, we'll give them, it's this big and this wide and this is the material. We'll kind of give them direction, but they'll in turn develop their shop drawings and their structure. I mean, they take care of everything at that point. So we're really looking for, to set a set of specifications that it's sort of an equal bid across the board. But that would be run through the purchasing department. So we would need to, like I said, just tell us which one you want and we'll put it out for bid. I don't know if you can see this sign. This one there, the letters are actually cut in there. Let me,
And essentially, it's a white plastic that's glued or secured inside and it gives it that look.
yeah. So,
And that's probably 5 years old, more or less, 5 or 6.
yeah, it doesn't, the material already comes pre-weathered, so it won't look any different than that. So you don't have to worry about painting it, you don't have to worry about, it's rusted already.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, we were looking at the monument, the big sign, and then it kind of had an appearance of like a sword, kind of look to, I don't know what you call it, but a sword, a point at the top. And a sword. But then when you got to the wayfinding monuments, they straightened out. And to me, I mean, I like the brick at the bottom and the information on it, that's not what I'm looking at, but, something that gives it a little bit more pop.
Okay.
Just because it looked to me like it didn't really stand out as much squared. I don't know if that angled shape at the top would make a difference, you know, you'd have to tell me, but it just seemed like we went with that point, and maybe that's a feature that we keep in all of them.
Sort of consistent.
Chair, I'm not trying to change anything from there down, I mean, everything else looks fine, but
They had an option with some of those.
I remember that, and it's not in here, so it all went straight, so I didn't know if there was a reason for that.
Well, I think we were trying to keep it not too overly complicated. I think that we had an option where we had like a silhouette cutout. And that works well for some of the sites, but not so well for some of the other ones, so it just didn't make sense to try to, it's like, we weren't trying to cram the square peg into a round hole, right? So, yes. Right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So one option, this item's not for action, but one thing we can consider is, what we've been saying is price them all, or the different alternates. And at that, yes, and then at the moment that we're procuring them, we have to make that final, and by that time, hopefully, we have sufficient public input.
We can do that as well. We can always, it's really simple to say base bid, alternate one, alternate two, alternate.
It's very common to do
five,
that.
you know. So we, as long as we know,
Personally, I'm good with pretty much any design. I particularly the San Agustin Cathedral that had the protrusion, I thought that looked cool.
yeah,
I worry about being damaged,
Yes.
somebody hitting it and then maintaining that. But this, to me, this is good, there's a standard, but I would be good the other way, Mr. Navarro too, I agree with that. But you can price those alternates and, you know, I want to get to a point where we're.
yes, exactly.
right.
Because the CVB has that funding that we want to tap into, so, and I think they're in agreement with that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking to try to get prices, let's not hold up on a Pico here, you know, throw
Like
this
an
out there
option
and
with
go.
extra.
And that way, at least we get a number that we can look at, because what if we take this, thinking this is gonna be cheap, and it comes back?
And
then we're in trouble.
exactly, that's what I'm trying to avoid, Mr.
And
Chairman.
select the proposer now, you know.
And the good thing is that whatever bidder ends up getting with, whichever bidder's selected, at that point, then we can work with them. I mean, they do this day in and day out, and they may have ways to say, you know what, if you just tweak this little thing, it might be less expensive.
Add one, subtract one, we've got all those options later on.
Right. Exactly.
Any other questions or comments before we move on?
So, Mr. Chairman, I know you established a wayfinding committee.
Right.
Would you like to, I mean, I'd make a motion that we end the duties of that committee and bring it back here, so we could come up with a final decision to give the architects, so that we don't get back into a committee meeting, another committee meeting, that way.
Sure.
We give them
I think
direction
can do
now.
that at the next time.
Who said
Okay.
that? Mr. Chairman, I volunteered to be in that committee. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we have, you actually can be part of that committee. We have 3 people there, but one of them is not a board member.
Okay.
So it's gonna come
No.
back. So here's what I suggest, is let's go ahead and, if everyone agrees, move on to the next item, which is related, and then we can take some action there. Actually, that one and number 6 and number 7. Discussion with possible action to approve revised wayfinding program and elements in consultation with the TIRZ Wayfinding Committee, which includes representatives from the CVB, Convention Visitors Bureau. This item will need to be presented to City Council for budgeting approval for that department. It's subsequently posted for competitive procurement. So this item is essentially acknowledging that CVB has vetted the locations, has okayed the designs that the committee came up with, and that's basically what that is. The next item, we'll talk about opening for public comment, which we can then talk about it coming back for any revisions or decisions on that basis. But are there any questions on this item? This is more of a administrative item. She needs to go back to council and say to them, I need a budget for this item. So are there any questions or comments?
Are we on number 6?
We're on number 6, correct.
I apologize, I thought the name was.
That's okay. For the record, Ms. Alexander has joined the meeting.
I did have a question. I heard you say this is just for the funding of the monuments?
For the wayfinding pieces of the monument.
CVB's funding.
Yes,
for you.
yes, not ours. So the Convention and Visitors Department is contributing to the expense of the wayfinding monuments. So in order for them to allocate that, she's got to go back to council and say, okay, we've got these monuments in conceptual design, I need a budget. And she'll make that request and hopefully receive approval.
So I was not at the last meeting, but I saw in the minutes that it was understood that they would pay for their monuments, and then it looked like you had suggested a $100,000 budget.
Yes, we did that at maybe 2 meetings ago. We allocated
I saw it in the minutes for the last meeting.
Yeah, so that's
Which
right.
was 2 months ago, because we missed a meeting, we missed a month.
That's correct. So that's in addition to the 100,000.
So what's this action is to,
This action is to acknowledge basically that CVB will go to the city. She needs us to take official action so she can go request allocation of a budget.
our action is providing her with,
Acknowledging the revisions to the wayfinding so she can present the concepts that were just presented.
okay. Oh, I missed the concepts.
Yes. Can you pop those in just so she can take a look?
Wow, I haven't even seen it.
Mr. Chairman, Rick, do you have a number from CBB? Because we are working on the
Yes,
budget, we
so-
can just put it in.
So I believe they mentioned they had about $70,000, I believe
But
was the
this
number.
year,
Yes, yes, I think that
but then
was,
they need to spend it within very fast.
Right,
now I will
For this
say,
fiscal year? I
for
mean,
this fiscal year.
yeah, I will say that, I mean, these monuments are not cheap, right? So we think we have enough budget for 5 or 6, all of them. But obviously, that may not be the case, so we just need to find out where we're at.
And the other issue is CVB follows a different criteria, so that
Right.
must direct people to something.
Certain, they have certain requirements on what can be placed on
Right.
those places.
Right, so she was involved in the locations and all that.
Yeah, we met with her and with the assistant director.
Okay,
So this was
Any other
option
questions
one.
on-
I don't see the,
No, these are still not working, so
Oh, I
we'll have
thought
to
those
look
were,
at those.
dang, sorry.
So essentially, those are
That's sort of the base option, and then we had,
Harold, they're in the packet also, if you want to look at them a little closer. Thank you.
we
Well,
look
yeah,
at-
and I've seen this. Also, we still have 4. That's, yeah, well, I would,
There it is.
later, I'm going to propose that we get these earlier so that we
I
have
agree
time
with you,
to
we're gonna talk about that some
review
more.
them, because I looked on Friday and I couldn't find anything. And after that, I'm a working person.
I agree.
So these have already been there's still the options.
Well, we discussed presenting alternate designs, that they have 2 options, presenting even a third one, which Mr. Navarro pointed out, the one that had a protrusion at the top. And then coming back, once we procure them, and making a final decision based on price and whatever else the board wants to decide. But we do need to take this action. I know Aileen asked me to make sure that this came here. And so I would think so that things don't change.
The idea was to at least send something off and get
Exactly.
a quote, so we know
Exactly.
ballpark what we're talking about, and then we go from there, but just to send a simple design, and then they can tell us how much that's gonna cost, and then we can tweak from there, because we're working with no dollar amount, we're just working on
It's essential, right?
And if this is, this fiscal year money, we gotta be pricing this like now.
Yeah, so I believe what Eileen needs is a motion from that you all have, agreed on this, concept. And then that way she can start the process of bidding it out, procuring it, and then that will have to be taken to council to award the funds and put all that together on, the 100,000 from y'all, their budget together with, so to make it whole. And that way we move forward and hopefully get it, secured before the fiscal year ends.
I don't think she needed a design established, she just needs to know that y'all are working on a design so she can go to city council to ask for some funding.
She needs this action, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she
Correct.
needs design.
I'll entertain an action on this item. Somebody wanna make a motion?
So action doesn't mean that we have a design yet. It's just gonna mean they're gonna be,
We have multiple designs.
yes, so I see the multiple designs, but we don't have one design that we're gonna take this action, and this is the one it's gonna be.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Right.
It's getting close, but
Because I'd like to see a public involvement component
I am
in
getting,
these signs.
I understand. And I'm getting that from different people that have called me and asked me. And to be honest with you, I wanna make sure this board does its due diligence. But I mentioned earlier when we started, we've engaged a public engagement process. The former chair did a great job with it. We all attended and participated. We cannot lose more time in engaging and
Getting
extending,
ideas.
getting it again. And, at least for me, and I've been on this board a couple of years now, I think it's long enough. And we're gonna talk about the next item, about engaging the pub for public comments again. We'll open it up again for 30 days, and we'll take some more comments. But ultimately, this board is ready to make a decision on purchasing some of these signs and getting them, the downtown needs these signs. We're gonna be a year in to our bonds being available to us, and we haven't acted on it. And none of us are gonna look well before the public. So I understand, I'm getting it from different people, and just the urgency is there. It's been there for me since, it's been over a year that I've been asking to get to construction, so. The more we take, so I understand we want public engagement, we'll talk about that the next item, but I think we've had plenty, we'll have more. I don't have any concern I think the public can chime in as much as they want. This board will still have to decide on which one gets designed and built.
Well, and Chairman, these are open up for public comments also. All your meetings do have any,
That's right.
there is
We'll
public
take care of it.
input that can be given at any time. That's why you all have different times. Y'all meet at 2:30, y'all meet in the afternoon.
And we've held special meetings to get the public.
But just because, the only reason I even am connected to this, I mean, everyone here is connected to how the city runs. But I'm a private citizen, I'm from the private sector. I don't know how many of us on this board are from the private sector. I'm an actual stakeholder in downtown. You saw I walked in late, because of, I'm not connected to this. I make my living elsewhere.
We all do. But so, get to
Can
the.
Excuse me, but can I finish my thought?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Even though it's open, right, and this is a free room, right? You can come in here anytime you want. But people just potentially might not be connected to the process and understanding that and allowing for that lack of awareness of how to connect. They will connect once those signs start going up. You'll see they connect. What's this? What's that? Why'd they choose that? Why is that color? Why is it this, design? Everyone will connect. So if we haven't been able to fill the room with interested parties, I'm taking some responsibility for that, right? I'm not just saying, well, they can come if they want to. I'm taking some responsibility that I can't show the stakeholders that are actually paying for these things. The stakeholders of the TIRZ monies are coming from tax dollars that the stakeholders actually are providing. And that they're not in the room, I don't think they're not in the room because they just don't care. I think they maybe don't realize how to connect to this process. And I would like to continue to reach out and not feel like, well, I've wasted, 4 or 5 years, however long I've been on this board. I haven't been able to fill this room. Of course, we just started being in this room. So I feel like it's my responsibility as a board member to continue to reach out to the stakeholders that are funding these improvements.
I'm with you on this, but if we don't get numbers, the day we call in everybody in here, they're gonna ask us, how much is it? And we're gonna sit here saying, well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm.
So the action I want to take today was to give them, Able City, the opportunity to get us some numbers, so we have some quotes, so that we can at least.
Guidance as to how much each sign costs.
Yeah.
I wonder if you wanna make a motion on it.
On item 6, I'd make the motion that we approve the revised wayfinding program and elements in consultation with the TIRZ Wayfinding Committee, which includes representatives from the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Second. Any discussion?
That's the options, right?
Yes,
Approve
yeah,
that
just
there's
options,
options, there's
right.
still options, it's not a final design.
That's correct.
Yes.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, which we discussed, Carol, before you walked in, was that we're gonna, whenever we submit for procurement, we're gonna have alternates. So we might get pricing for all of these. And that way, then you guys have all the information you need to make those selections.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor, yeah,
But
one other
Mr. Chairman,
comment.
if we go for bidding, you only have 30 days. So if we involve public, then you don't have time. We need to select one, because I think what Orly is asking, you give us a cost estimate.
Oh,
It's
to
not
use the money from the,
Yeah,
only
because
30
we
days, so
can't
we
go
lose
out
it.
and bid, because the price is only valid for 30 days.
It's yeah, but I think we can select the proponent and then maybe work with them, right, on options. I think getting ahead it's gonna take 30 days to get the proposals in. How fast is it?
So
30
ultimately
days?
so this was just a concept, right? So we would still require, the bid process you're saying would be a design and build, right? Design build?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Usually it would have to go out for RFPs, possibly 30 to 45 days
Yeah.
minimum.
So it's not necessarily design build, it's basically, I mean, we'll give them a
The
design.
turnkey, as you said,
They will manufacture and
install.
it's a turnkey,
So it's just a build, it's just the construction.
it's just a construction.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah.
So it's still 30 days, I believe 30 days.
So we go for public comments, 30 days, it's still coming back.
If Able City is doing the design, can we go through Able Cities to get the bids and not do it through the city?
Nope,
No, it's have to
not
be
when you
with
have
the
city funds, since the city funds will be paying for a portion of it.
And it's in the agreement as well,
I tried.
Aren't the TIRZ funds paying for it?
They are.
Not 100%.
Well, that's.
Oh, okay.
And TIRZ money is required to go through all the procurement process.
Yes.
That's in our agreement, that's the TIRZ City of Laredo agreement. All those in favor on item, as proposed, item 6, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Next, item 7, discussion and possible action to ratify the updated street monument conceptual designs and proposed mural locations and open for public comment. And now, the idea there was to run it 30 days, August 12, 2022, prior to posting for competitive procurement. Obviously, this item is going to probably read differently in action, right? We just talked about including alternates as opposed to a final design, and running it for 30 days. But the motion you talked about, Mr. Martinez, was asking Able City to get pricing now, so starting the procurement process now. Which doesn't change the public comment period.
I would like to, I see that Dr. Uribe is here from Laredo Main Street, and I know that we have talked about maybe Laredo Main Street could use their Facebook page or their social media presence, I don't know everything, to put some of the designs out there, get some, it doesn't have to be an election per se, but at least some consensus, so that when the board's making a decision, they can see what the people that actually,
Rank them.
the people that
That's a
actually
very good
go to
idea.
It Street. Like, when was the last time any of you were on It Street on the weekend? Anybody?
No,
No, so the people that are actually enjoying its street and using it for entertainment purposes, you know, I don't see any of those people in the room. But I feel like maybe they could be heard if we used, Laredo Main Street's social media component to do something fun like that, or we could use a newspaper. We could leave some of the designs with some of the merchants downtown to start to include them in the process here. Also, some awareness. I know I've heard multiple people talk about, well, I know this is another agenda item, but the surveyors are already doing work downtown, and people are calling me like, what's going on? Why are the surveyors out there? So that our community, the TIRZ community, is this big, right? And we could actually engage Laredo Main Street to help spread the word about the upcoming
Love the idea.
construction that's gonna be, and improvements, not just construction, which is typically a headache, but also the improvements that will be enhancing the area. The tenants, many of the tenants and the shop owners still are not aware of what's coming.
Any other comments on this item? Dr. Udi, you want to come to the podium? Is that something you'd entertain? Need to put you on the spot, but
She was smiling, so
She's
I'll
ready.
take it as a yes.
I mean, of course, our goal as Main Street is to actually have the public know what we're doing in downtown. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to say these improvements, and I think wording is very important, right? These improvements are coming to downtown. This is what the TIRZ board is proposing, and this is your opportunity to actually engage. So yes, I mean, that would be something that we will entertain for sure.
thank you very much. What would the board, stay there because we may have questions. What would the board like to hear from the public? I'd like to hear anything from the public, but is there anything, I'd like to get a ranking of the designs, you know, with comments, at least that. And what else would we want to hear?
I
from-
wonder if preliminary, we should decide, the board should decide more or less what options we're gonna place on your website. Because,
But we've done that before.
Yeah,
and that's what I was saying.
we had a wayfinding committee, right?
So,
And,
I
who's
mean-
on that way funding committee, by the way?
I
Are
was
you?
there.
It's Orlando, Carol, Aileen.
Oh, okay.
My
Eileen was there.
understanding, okay, so let me see if this helps anything. So my understanding is that we have two options or three options, right? At least for monuments at the East Street from what I'm hearing right now. So what we can do is a ranking process. We can open a very quick survey. We can even do a sponsor thing through our social media, Facebook, Instagram. So we say, okay, if you are interested, rank these 1 to 3 quick survey, and then we present findings to you. I mean, that would be an easy way.
And don't constrain the public's comment. Let it be what it is.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we can collect, I mean, for sure, there will be comments.
What's your audience? How many people are they members of that?
No, well, we have 15,000 people in our Facebook account and 3,000 in our Instagram account. I think it's 3,000, I can check.
So generally, the downtown public for sure would.
Yes, and also we have connection with the Bar Association downtown, so we can even engage through their social media.
Yeah, and they'll share, right, that we can, if Laredo Main Street does it, then the other organizations that are connected to
And share.
remember when, you know, I see a lot of reminiscent, people remembering downtown
Let's
and they
do
can
it.
share and then do stuff on it.
That's the fastest way to do it.
My downtown.
And my
Laredo
downtown,
also.
so yeah, so we can actually see a network of social media accounts and go from there.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we request that Laredo Main Street handle the public comment for the TIRZ, and that they request a ranking plus any other comment the public wants to submit for at least 30 days. And the second part of that is that we still initiate the RFP process so that we can get the pricing as soon as we can.
I second that motion.
Can we have community development kind of review what's gonna be posted before it gets posted, just to make sure it's.
I'm fine with that amendment, that community development be involved in that drafting of the posting.
And we'll work closely.
You're in agreement? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify, this is for the East Street monuments and the signs, the fine way signs.
All the wayfinding.
At this point, for me, I put it all out there.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
You know, this way, everybody's informed.
okay, sounds good.
Don't constrain it, don't restrict it. Including the murals locations, which ones do you prefer better? Do you have alternates, that kind of stuff?
Okay.
Well, that one might, because to make it less complicated, that might be left to the actual experts, right? The design is more popular,
Well, there'll be someone that say, you never
Receiving a
asked us where the murals were
But
going.
the-
Let's just
but the
put it all out there
location-
and be done with it.
But the location is, I mean, there's locations that you can't, the location is connected to streets and other things.
Not the location.
The location of the sign.
I'm sorry, are you talking about murals now?
Yes.
Some of them are private property, so I think it would be strange for
Wait, are we
somebody to
talking about
see, wait a
murals?
minute, that's my building.
Yeah, I would say the signs,
Murals or
wayfinding
signage?
signs.
Oh,
mural.
let's take a public location and then ask the public to tell us where would they want to see it, without showing people's properties. Just use an image that depicts a mural. You can use an existing one.
Or take out murals altogether and just leave
Yeah, I
the
think-
updated street monument conceptual designs.
I'm fine with that. Just want to move forward.
yeah, the murals,
Just.
Yeah.
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 All right.
So, Dr. Uribe, you're gonna get back to us, and you think by next meeting, she'll have results of
Oh,
this
yeah.
Can't
survey?
she just work with community development and get it going? I mean, this could be like a week,
Yeah.
next week.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great.
So
great.
if it means,
Not to put any,
we
Not
may
to
want
put
to
any
push.
pressure.
So
Not
we-
to just,
We may want to push the next meeting a couple of weeks so we can get the results. that
Okay,
day.
good.
But, I mean, they're immediate, right? When you do a ranking, it's.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that will come immediate, yes, we can conduct it first.
So it's been moved in second, the amendment is to include community development. Do you second?
I second.
She seconds that amendment.
Did you want-
Any additional
Yeah.
discussion?
So then, just because I want to be clear, so are we getting budget numbers? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, you're still pursuing, well, the proposal, you got to work through that first
Yes,
to get,
all right. So, but we're going to prepare that to get to purchasing to go
yes,
through the
and
process.
get proponents to respond. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None motion passes. Next item is item 8, discussion with possible action to approve a contract amendment with KCI Technologies to include revised scope for the development of construction documents for approved projects and any other matters incident thereto. Mr. Chavez is here. We got very close to presenting this item, but because of travel reasons, we're not ready to review this amendment yet. So it'll come back at the next meeting. However, the KCI promises that they're not stopping any work, they're still proceeding as planned. And what this is essentially the second part of what they proposed originally. We refined numbers and scope, and that's what you were gonna get today, but we didn't get an official revised proposal, so we're gonna table this item and punt it to the next meeting. Anything else you wanna add?
No, Ramon Chavez, city engineer for the record, that's pretty much it. We'll, once we get the proposal, just give us an opportunity to review it, make sure we provide that information to the board, so prior to giving a recommendation.
So what you have, this other exhibits that you received or are in your packet, these are existing conditions. Most of the surveying out there is done. Probably, in fact, I know it's done. So now they're basically putting
I'm
into
sorry, do I have that? What is that? What are you
Yeah.
referring to?
that packet.
So this, we got this today, right now?
You got this today.
Okay, so nobody's been able to review it, right, or look at it?
Maybe a couple of people that were on our shared team, but no, nobody else has really seen it.
Right, so I can't, I mean.
We're not taking
I'm-
action on it.
I'm interested, yeah, right, but is there ever anybody from KCI Technologies in this room?
Eventually, they'll be here. Yeah, today they couldn't be here for travel reasons, but yes.
How-
Once they actually deliver drawings, these are basically, existing condition means they surveyed what's out there, told us where the sidewalk ends and the, street signs are and all that. They put Iturbide Street This is only through the street. So, but I know they're working to get the other ones up. After that, you're going to see them present their actual design, right? Their alignment of the sidewalks and inlets, if there's any changes to those. So this is just really them showing us that they've done some work. And I know they're done with the surveying because, Edward expressed that to me. But for going forward, you'll start seeing more refined drawings that take us from this existing drawings to proposed improvements.
Okay, so we're not gonna talk about the revised scope.
Not today because we don't have it before us.
They're not ready.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next item, discussion, item 9, discussion and possible action to authorize the TIRZ #1 board to solicit a competitive request for proposals for interested, qualified, and experienced respondents for a grant writer to assist with preparing grant proposal applications. And number 2, to assist with qualitative property and conditions door-to-door surveying of inventory of downtown area and other projects. Data points and information obtained from this work will be provided to the planning department, who will assist with related mapping and data overlays for potential redevelopment efforts. So last meeting, I covered some of the intention over this kind of work. The only way well, one of the ways to do basically the grunt work or the street work is to partner up with someone that's willing to do that work door to door, looking at conditions of the facade conditions, is it occupied, and any data point that we would want to know in evaluating the downtown area. That's item 2. The first item was the grant writer. So understanding that the city is pretty overwhelmed with their grant writing efforts and solicitations, I want us to consider procuring a grant writer so that we can go out. There's still relatively new money coming out, and I would like for us to be able to do that quickly as opposed to losing the opportunity. Mr. Mia, you have comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On this one, item number 2, council did fund a position to go through those abandoned or vacant building in downtown. And now I know Councilwoman Cigarroa and City Manager, we talked about it, creating a redevelopment coordinator position, and that position is being moved to economic development. So I don't think we should be funding this one because
Okay.
we already have somebody funded for that position.
Okay,
We just did not recruit it yet because
okay.
now that person will do both.
Grant writing too?
No, not grant writing.
Just
Yeah, redevelopment side of it.
If you feel comfortable that will satisfy, that's fine.
Yeah, let us work on this. If we need help, we'll come back to TIRZ. But since it's funded position, let's see what they can come up with.
Okay.
But how is I thought the TIRZ was monies to build things. How is a TIRZ, how are TIRZ monies available to hire someone
It's
to do?
basically consulting work, the way we handle Able City.
It wouldn't be an employee, it'd just be a contract
Right, yeah.
labor.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
consulting agreement.
But to what end? A grant writer to find money to build things? I mean,
Well-
because other these things, Mr. Navarro and I had spoken with this months ago about the lack of this data. And when Laredo was a Bloomberg What Works City, it was all about data. I haven't seen that data. Has anyone on this board, is anyone familiar with this?
At the time, I saw it, but I haven't seen it in years.
Well, we're no longer a Bloomberg.
Well, can I,
Yes, please.
okay.
Well, I can't say.
Go ahead.
Deanna Frank for the record. I'm just used to saying that up here. Bloomberg What Works Cities was a program that was initiated about 5 years ago, and it did go through the program, and it did help the city put in an open data policy, which has passed by ordinance. It's in there. If you go to openlaredo.com, they are filling information in there on certain things. I do know that part of what the policy says is that there's, I guess, there's a committee or a team or a board or, I don't know what, it's a group of people. It's either made up of city people and people in the private sector. I don't remember offhand, but there is a group of people that's supposed to figure out what is the data that we're needing to move forward in Laredo in whatever capacity, whatever need that it needs to move forward. And you can, and this organization can ask the open data department to give them data points that they might need. So it is something that's available. I don't know how.
Is there an open data department in Laredo?
There's an open data, there used to be an actual officer of innovation that took care of that department, but I don't think that exists anymore. I think it's maybe IT that's running it. And it's a very robust
It was
and
always
important.
IT, and Andy Castaneda is the person who managed the data.
And we can ask them, like you can ask them for certain data points and they can help get those data. I don't know what their timing is. I don't know exactly how they put it in queue or anything like that, but it'd be nice to maybe invite them and tell us how they can help us.
Is that in your department or is that building?
The IT department stands alone.
Oh, stands alone.
Omero Vasquez is our,
Okay.
Omero Vasquez.
So
And Andy works under him, but he,
it'd be really great if you all went to that website because you can get a grasp right away as to some of the things that are already available to us by putting in filters and things like that, and what we might be able to use it for.
What kind of
Mr. Martinez,
information,
go ahead.
what kind of information are we talking about on this?
Well, they have
database?
there's a lot right now. I just went on it. They have updated really all the budget, what's been paid. You can go and filter out concepts of what has been, how much has been spent on X, Y, or Z in the city. And you can ask for a separate filter, like, okay, I need to find out, or we need to find out what permits have happened, because I saw a filter for permits. I guess you're,
building.
yeah. And so we can find out what are the types of permits that are going on in downtown, what areas is that happening in? What's the investment what's the size of I think you were doing actually some of that, you showed me a GIS map or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
I've got some maps.
Yeah. And
So there's qualitative data, right, which is the data that I'm searching for, which is subjective. Is there anybody here, as opposed to quantitative, something that's reported through a system, an online system? I'm hoping that we can have someone actually make an assessment of this facade, how much does it need in repairs, right? So if we're gonna craft a facade incentive package for the future, we actually know, okay, well, we know there's 30 of these that need between 10,000 and 20,000 and then 60 to 80. So that it's the qualitative data that will take somebody actually walking and saying, well, if you're thinking you're gonna redevelop, so we've talked generically about redeveloping parts of other blocks and parts of downtown. You need to have the qualitative data, and that takes some work. Beyond the metrics of, the building permit process or the Webb County Appraisal District process.
So the qualitative data, I think you can just drive around and see that,
Yes.
80% of the buildings need facade improvement.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that we need to hire someone to do that.
I think somebody needs to do it. Driving it is too generic, you've got to be able to actually prove that there's a specific need.
I'm not sure how that's the scope of the TIRZ board.
I just gave an example where we're going to start looking at incentivizing anything going forward. We have a phase one, which is this reconstruction project. But for the future, we have $800,000 that we're sitting on that we need to think about how we're going to use that. Do we do some more reconstruction, or do we incentivize people to come rent a spot downtown? So in order to do that, you really need to know what conditions those properties are in, even whether the owner is interested, you know, whether he's just dormant or disinterested. You're not gonna get that from metrics.
Yeah.
But this is for the future. Again, I'm imposing my vision, but if we don't think, you know, we need to, then I think you need to, otherwise you're generalizing, like, well, let's convert this area into an arts center. Well, what do we have? What's the square footage, right? So the data sets, I think you can get, you know, the square footages, either the appraisal district, brick building, can get those. But the qualitative, subjective, I don't think we can get from that. So that to me, that's what that speaks to. You don't have to tackle it now. We have other things to tackle, but think about what we do going forward, particularly if we're looking at incentivizing redevelopment. That needs to be thought about. The first piece of the grant writing is simply mobilizing us with new money. We have one or two grants right now from the Department of Transportation that the city has offered to try to include us if it fits. So there's a team that's gonna probably submit that. But if we found the grant that we needed to write ourselves, if the city can't do it, we're stuck. So that's the purpose of that part of the item.
I think that, Mr. Chairman, grants is a great thing. I know in 2 months, there will be MPO money for walkability. I think they have about $2.1 million coming up. And so those are the things we should be targeting it. But remember, all these grants also require some matching money, so whatever money we have left, we should keep it just for, if we land a $1 million grant, you're looking at $200,000 just match.
We need to have a vision for that other bucket of funds that's there.
You said somebody has $2.1 million
It's
for
the MPO.
MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization.
MPO,
Yeah, these are the federal money, it's alternative mode of transportation money comes in. And city was very successful doing some of the hike and bike trail with this money. And so now downtown will be what we are trying to do. I think that fits right what the MP are trying to do.
So there's other organizations also, I didn't know that there was those kinds of monies for walkability, which of course our downtown is in
Yes.
desperate need for improvement on the walkability end. But there's other organizations, specifically the downtown business district, that's starting to get moving again, that would be the actual stakeholders, of course, maintaining what's improved downtown. And then also Laredo Main Street has a lot of data on this kind of stuff, and the staff walks and works with the merchants and the property owners that are downtown.
So there is a current grant, Reconnecting Communities, that has a walkability and roadway safety piece, which fits everything we're doing as TIRZ. I think if there's a spot, I think the city's gonna include us, either the MPO or the city, whoever ends up leading it. So, but beyond that, you know, hopefully there'll be more American Rescue Plan monies coming down. We need to be ready. So I would like for the board to consider this today. An agreement that we'll see how the redevelopment coordinator all pans out on item 2, but is there an interest to pursue trying to read the rest of the board, the grant writer solicitation?
I think we should look at it. There will be, as you say, there will be money coming down the pipeline from the infrastructure fund, so.
Mr. Castillo, any thoughts on your end?
No, yeah, I think it's a good idea to try to get someone to be out there looking for funding for the TIRZ.
Okay, so, all right. Anybody else, any other comments?
I have a question about the American Rescue Plan's monies. Is there a way to see how much the city has gotten that's labeled American Rescue Plans, and how much of that has been spent in the decimated downtown Laredo that COVID, I'm sure those American Rescue Plans are connected to COVID, and every business downtown with the bridge closed for however many, 23 months or something, how much money was directed at the downtown businesses? Is there a way to find out that information?
There is, I think there is a presentation making to council, because council funded, small business loan. So that's,
They-
some of them are forgivable loan, and most of them went to the small, really small business. I think they're gonna get a presentation in August 1st. Of, we had to do $2 million first, and then another million, so about $3 million from rescue fund.
The city got $3 million for rescues?
No,
No,
of that money, city put $3 million to help the small businesses.
How much money did the city get to rescue the city?
About,
48 million.
yeah,
48 million? And so I would be able to find out how many of those 48 million went to downtown businesses?
but you cannot just give it to downtown businesses.
Well,
There
no, I
are-
understand that, but how, like you say,
Yeah.
I hear the loans, but we could find out how many loans were given to downtown businesses?
that's
Or how
gonna-
many even applied? How many of the downtown I mean, I know multiple that just closed. Maybe they weren't aware of
And
that
it
there
was
was
open to public if they
some
would
relief.
apply, but that's the presentation the council will get in August 1st.
Oh, in August.
Yeah,
From who would,
from economic development. They will present to council the success of the loan and who are the people got the loan.
who runs the economic development?
Now it's Mariam Castillo. She's the-
Is Miriam here?
I have
Rick,
just
you
a
want to
quick-
comment
yeah,
on
just
this
a quick
item?
comment on the money available through the MPO, is that, does the project need to be generated to apply for that, or is it just,
Well, everybody goes after, it, the state, Webb County, Laredo, and is it District 7? I mean, not District 7,
Downtown is 8.
no. What do they call the funding? MPO monies?
No, it's the city and countywide actually. It's the,
I'll have Juan Mendiva call you, he's the director for the MPO,
okay?
and he can get in touch with you and let
Yeah,
you know
just
how that,
curious,
how the
like,
funding's.
do you need a plan to be able to
Yeah,
get something
so
approved?
Rick, on this particular, there's two grants that they're working on right now. One of them actually has a project on the back end of it, so they submit a plan, they receive the funding, but it also funds implementation, which traditionally MPOs haven't gotten into projects, but they can now. So basically the plea to him was take some work for downtown and include it in that proposal. Fortunately, he has assets to be able to prepare the grant proposal, but if it was another grant, we would just miss it.
Right, okay.
And Mr. Chair, there might be an ability to get them to grant write for us. They might get funding for that, so I'll ask him and see what he tells us, because that might help. We don't have,
All right.
That's a good idea. Find out.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we proceed to solicit competitive requests for proposals for interested, qualified, and experienced respondents for grant writing purposes only. Is there a second?
I second it.
Mr. Mia seconds. Any additional discussion?
So we're still, well, I feel like that's maybe in the future, but I definitely don't think that the TIRZ monies should be paying for someone to do data collecting that,
No, data collecting is out. We're not doing that. It's grant writer only.
Just the grant writer, Carol. The one that asks for free money, not the one that writes.
and so this vote is to actually hire someone to
To
put
go
out?
out and solicit requests for proposals for people to respond.
And who will write the solicitation?
Probably between myself, the city, and Able City will come up with the solicitation. Tina has provided me a sample of a request for proposal they've used, so we could fine tune that. Any additional comments or questions?
And just for you select the consultant, when the grant comes up, they look at it, and then that's the time they say, okay, it's gonna cost us $20,000
Correct.
to write it. And that's the time you award the contract.
Hopefully not that much, but yeah.
If you're looking for $2 million.
Oh, yes.
definitely.
All right, any other comments?
So the grant writer would be just receive payment per grant?
Yes, that's the contract
Yeah, the terms, I think,
We
that
gotta
would work
find
out.
somebody.
We're assuming they're gonna do it on some sort of a negotiated fee. They might do it on an hourly, so we can discuss however we wanna solicit those rates.
Can a nonprofit apply to be a grant writer?
Yes. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Item 10, discussion and possible action to formally extend Able City contract term for an additional year from its 2022 anniversary date. The contract term to automatically renew for up to 5 years from its execution. So I make a motion that we extend this. This is a formality. The contract is in place for 5 years. And that we make a motion to extend it formally for a year, beginning the anniversary this year. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Mr. Martinez seconds. Any discussion? There being none?
You said for 1 year?
Yes.
Okay.
1 year.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Item 11, discussion and possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City as presented. There is one in your packets, and there seems to be, maybe it's not confusion, but we just need to confirm that it hasn't been paid prior. I still would like to approve it, and with the request that accounting confirm that it hasn't been duplicated in payment. And further, just so you all are informed, I asked Able City, they have in their services, they provide design services, so you all have seen those costs. But they also work with us to administer the TIRZ, right? Our work, set up meetings, attend committee meetings and lead committee meetings. So that, I've asked them to document that time in their invoice. You'll start seeing a summary of that time, so you know that's quantifiable. And ultimately, eventually, we'll get to a monthly average, so to speak, on their work as we get through our projects. So, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I know that the last meeting you had, staff had just received the invoice. So this is that invoice?
Yes.
Correct.
And you've reviewed it and we're good
Yes.
to go?
Yes, this one's good.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the invoice. Looking for a number.
3,200
It's on the second page.
Invoice dated May 11th, invoice 1996.
Are you wanting?
Invoice number 1996, yes, thank you.
I'll second that. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? No. All right, last thing before we go is I'd like to make sure we develop packets, and I'll take the responsibility of compiling packets for the board and working with community development. And at least to get ahead, to get everything in by the Friday prior. And whatever comes in after will not make the packet. So we have to stick by that, because I know we're getting invoices the day before and presentations the day before. And I appreciate everybody that works hard to get us as much updated as possible, but we need to do that timely. So I'll ask, Able City and anybody else to include KCI to produce those for us by Friday. And I know Mr. Chavez says that one thing I should consider is maybe a communication that gives them background, like so that, because I know some items are aged.
Okay.
And, I don't mind putting in time to provide some background. It's like this, but I can work with you all on it.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No, I would like
Okay,
to,
go ahead.
for further agendas, I hope to add something called other business, or so that if someone has something to, so that going forward, if there's a concern,
Sure. So moved.
be, okay,
Yeah.
so that we can put that
If
on
we
the
can make
agenda.
a motion, but.
And then also, I think there is, Patricia Goldberg resigned,
That's correct.
and I think, looking at this board, I think that I would hope to see an actual stakeholder fill the empty position that's on this board.
Yes, that's correct. So Ms. Goldberg resigned a couple of months ago. Wasn't quite clear, but now she's made it clear. She is resigned from the board. I have already spoken to and met with Councilwoman Cigarroa this is that appointment. So her and I will work on a replacement. And I agree, it definitely needs to be a stakeholder in the downtown area. Anything else administratively or otherwise? We'll add other business to the agenda. Obviously, we can't take action, but it'll at least give some
New
conversation.
business or other business? We should think it's,
Either one, like
Okay.
new business, new other business.
okay.
All right. It is, we've already voted, right, to adjourn? Is there, all those to adjourn, say aye?
Aye.
Any against? None, we're adjourned at 3:48.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Pension policy.
No, they haven't.